game.
Your responsibility is to take care of your own character. Don't worry about anybody else's sheet.
Yeah.
Each person is in control of their own hit points tracking, ammunition tracking, spell points, all that good jazz. I'm putting out there to just everybody has free control over all of their character mechanics. I don't want to be having to track everybody's spell points on top of everything else I'm doing.
No, that makes sense, yeah.
So, all right. It is pushing into the 7th month of the lunar cycle, where the sisters reach their zenith, and an aurora spreads across the northern hemisphere. An unseasonable cold has begun to creep, has spread its icy fingers down from the north. There is a crunch on the fresh morning grass when the sunlight hits down on the Dren Valley, filtering through the Drakwold and the Heartwood that spreads across the Oblast. It is as if a million twinkling stars litter the earth until they're gone with the heat of the day. A soft mist permeates the valley almost from the swampy regions of the Kremire all the way down to where the Gorstans River meets the Heartwood. With this cold, even before the harvest end, has a lot of the mountain towns, the outlying villages on edge as to whether they will be able to beat a true frost, if there is a true frost coming. There hasn't been a deep winter for about 20 years. And while there is always a soft, perpetual snow cover in some regions of the Oblast, for the most part, it has been unscathed by the winter, the famine that comes with that, and other more dangerous things that come down from the mountains and that try and cross the frozen slush that the Chill Glass River becomes. In recent months, there has been a frenzy of activity concerning the Drakwold, the dark primordial forest that spreads across the northern part of the Oblast. Gnoll hunting packs, feral, cannibalistic, tribalistic, bipedal hyenids have been raiding down into the outlying towns of Gorstans and Druzchill, even sometimes chasing travelers and caravans right up to the gates of Tanelheim, or, in the old tongue, Druzny itself. The mercenary company of the Irregulars, which has been contracted on a permanent basis from the Empire as a standing pseudo-military force here in the north, has been routinely doing what's known as, what's been come to know as retaliation sweeps. At first, there was a lot of frenzy involved, a lot of pride. It was a good way to drum up imperialistic nationalism in the north, to beat back these savage barbarians. As the months dragged on, it became routine. It became wearisome. And each new raid is the one to stop the raids. But they keep coming. Something is displacing the Gnolls and driving them further into the valley. It's almost as if they have lost any kind of fear that was instilled in them when the Empire took the Oblast from the Druzny people. During the last retaliation sweep, the regular mercenaries that came back told of a strange ruin that they'd tracked their quarry to, nestled in and around the mouth of a cave. Talura, this information definitely piqued your interest, and considering that somebody owed you a favor, your name found its way to the forefront of an expedition funded by the Collegiate Appropriation Fund. Because of dealings prior to this moment, you had the unique and incredibly exciting opportunity of spelunking these ruins first before any other collegiate official, because somebody owes you a favor. And that favor is their name on all the deeds, all the titles, all the contracts. Anything goes wrong, it's on their reputation and not yours. This is your chance, unfettered, out of the controlling gaze of the Magos, to really get to grips with your special interests. Being given access to the appropriation fund, you spent weeks listening to Tavern Scuttle, drawing plans, studying routes and tracks through the Drakwold, and you began to put together your expedition. You started with a quite well-known quartermaster with the irregulars, a dwarven man with shrewd eyes, thick hooked nose broken in two places, massive white and silver braided beard, clinched with pewter rings, named Orlo. Thinning, balding on the top of his head, but still won't give up his, luxurious dwarven mane. It's, again, clinched with pewter rings that sits between his shoulders. Hiring him allowed you access to 3 Caravan. 2 with team of 2 horses, 1 with a single mule. With him came a very accomplished steward named Tangra. Human male, middling height, very dusky skin. Sun, he's grew up a place where the sun shone higher and brighter than up here in the Oblast. His pale green eyes, watery. Thin mustachio, very well kept, angles his very pointed face. And when he speaks, he has an Acathanian accent, from where the merchant princes along the coast meet the southern border of the Empire. And there is Ulvar, a native of the Tanal Oblast, short, thin-framed man with hooded blue eyes, a thick salt and pepper beard. Small trinkets adorn the pouches at his waist, and he carries nothing but a small hunting knife and a short bow. He was hired on by Orlo as a tracker that is familiar with these lands. He spent most of his life growing up in and around Gorstance and hunting game in the foothills of the Spine Mountains that rise high above the Bench Barrett Downs and off to the sweeping glades of the Drakwold. The caravan finds itself mustering in the early hours of the morning outside the city walls. All the figures that you spent weeks threading their immediate futures together with coin, promise of plunder, and favor from the collegiate. It is imperial law that no man, no woman, no creature may take on contracted work unless they are with an accredited mercenary institution. The one that has complete control over all mercenary contracts drawn up and given the stamp of approval by the Empire here in the Oblast are the Irregulars based out of Druzhny itself. It is through the Irregulars and through some interestingly long nights in the local tavern, the Stone Bear, with Orlo, you have gathered your party of adventurers that will provide expertise in the areas that the Caravan does not have. As the sun reaches its zenith and the city comes to life, the thick, hot smell of industry and civilization mixed with the damp, wet smell of the valley and the sharp bite of the air. Caravan sets off and begins its winding journey round soft golden meadows turning to brown that surround Gorstance. And before long, the safety of the road is left behind as the caravan begins to enter into the depths of the Drakwold. The forest rears up all around the rough-cut dirt path that the Irregulars routinely recut through. The forest is always fighting back and trying to force its way to what it was. Tree stumps that are, tagged and painted will disappear to be replaced with a completely different species of tree over time. Far, far quicker than anything that could naturally occur. This kind of phenomenon has led rise to folktales about how the trees will walk within the Drakwold, and it's ever closer creeping to the walls of Druzhny, and always has been. The sounds in the forest are slightly muffled from the thick, twisting undergrowth, the heavy moss that brackets the tree trunks, small patches of snowdrift that can be found isolated in the cold shadow. Small game skitters and scutters, birds call out as they track your passing, warning of potential danger to their kin. Orlo leads the primary cart at the front of the caravan, hooded and covered, steel bar braced on the side. In the back of this is the gathered group. The two caravan carts behind is another closed-top, wooden bracketed cart full of all the camp supplies. And the third one, with Ulvar leading the mule, has the foodstuffs and perishables. The ruins that you're approaching sparked a fire that rushed through the collegiate representatives in Druzhny. Not because it's another ruin. They're found littering all over the northern reaches of the continent here. But it's the nature of the ruin, where it's concealed, the specific architecture, and a small shard of broken stone that was retrieved by one of the mercenaries and brought back. Under examination, it was of Elvish origin, ancient, old, antiquated, elvish. This was a shard from a Tuathanan structure. And the Tuathanan, as imperial history decrees from what they know, was the dominant empire that ruled across the northern sphere of the planet until a great cataclysm brought them low. What keeps the Collegiate interested is how every single facet of Tuathanan life was enhanced by the use of magic. They had schools of magic and access to the weave in a way that only imperial scholars and mages can dream of. There has not been anything like their kind in almost 2,000 years. And so it's a big deal when Tuathanan ruins are found, because deep within them could be untold treasures, riches for those who are brave enough to venture down into these ancient shadowed places that have been left untouched for so long. But there is also the chance to find working arcane relics that could bring new insight into how the weave is studied, but also more importantly for the Collegiate, unfounded power to the Empire. And so, it has come to Tellura through threat of your own reputation to now be the expert leading this expedition. It is a heady feeling. It is something that you have dreamed of, striven for, fought for, that's always been held at arm's reach above you by your self-appointed betters. Something they've always kept out of reach, never really let you in on. Always tried to keep you inside a box, keep you small. Well, now is your chance. As the caravan begins to twist, turn into the Drakwold, it has now veered off the comfortable and familiar path that is cut by the irregulars, and it is now moving through goat tracks, rough country.
So as I understand it, that thin purple line is about the path we took until it doesn't kind of matter at this point. We're lost in the woods somewhere.
Let me...
Excellent.
Yep, you're in the woods.
I'm thrilled to be in the woods because in
I
the
love
woods
Barely
this.
see that line.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I don't see it at all.
I made it really thin because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to erase it, which I did.
Oh, I see it now. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's thin. It's like a 2-pixel line.
Okay.
I asked the Oracle, by the way. See the RP channel.
Gather your party before venturing forth.
I already know it's going to be a good one.
And
Okay, so
yep, with the caravan careening off this road and beginning to curve eastwards into the Drakwold, it's at this point Orlo begins to slow the carts, not to a stop, but to a crawl. This is the area where the last sweep encountered their Gnollish quarry and tracked them in, and you know that the ruins themselves are nestled across the river.
right. Well, first order of business is to turn to our local travel tracker, Ola, and ask him if he's if it appears like there's any fresh tracks, or if it seems like there's any hint of Gnollish activity or anything to be concerned about for the morning.
Inclines his head, steps down away from the mule, kind of gestures towards it with one stubby finger, as if, someone watch that. And he begins to walk up past the caravan, kind of looks up at everybody, just briefly, very perfunctory, just checking features. And he disappears off into the woodland.
That's all I say.
The back of the cart is quite cramped. It's not incredibly uncomfortable, but it's obviously not luxury. There are small straw stuffed sacks, burlap sacks across the two benches that line either side. There are barrels and chests lashed and strapped across the center of the cart, and the party is arrayed on either side of it. There are flaps, thick oil coated and wax coated, oil treated and wax coated leather flaps that you can kind of move aside that act as almost like curtains to the outside world.
Are we all like outside the cart, or are we?
Now you're inside it.
Okay. What did the guide say? I couldn't hear.
We're awaiting his return.
He left?
He did.
Damn it, I just fucking stayed home.
Ricard becomes acutely aware that he is now in the middle of the woods, in the back of the car, with a bunch of strangers.
A bunch of strange dudes, in fact.
A bunch of strange dudes. Nothing's ever come good of when this has happened.
I'll show you who's the boss of this cart.
there are flesh-eating gnolls out there somewhere in those trees. About
Now, without great risk, there can be no reward.
I don't know.
About 10 minutes passes while this soft nervousness is kind of permeating the air.
Weeping, you mean? Yeah.
And Olvar materializes again out of the gloom between the trees. Walks forward, his bow slung over his shoulder. And he waves his hand. Shouts up, "We're good to the river." Kind of gestures for Orlo to start coming. Orlo cracks his reins, leans back. "Can someone get the mule?"
I look off.
Behind the camp supplies cart with the camp steward Tangra at the reins is the victuals cart with its single old bow-backed mule just staring.
I mean, Untos is going to get up silently and go sort the mule out. He's gotten sick of the feeding this cart.
All you hear,
too much. You need some air, man.
All you hear is the creaking of wood as Unto stands. You hear, boom, boom. Just jumps off the back of the cart, and then you just hear, and
just the brain of a donkey that is not best fucking impressed. Like,
it snorts its displeasure, but with a firm hand on the harness around its head and neck, begin to lead the mule behind. The caravan sets off and begins to make fairly decent speed, weaving between the trees. It gets narrow at a few points, and at one point the camp supplies cart, the second one in the caravan, gets its iron shod wheel caught between two rocks. It has to be a group effort to get it unstuck and back on its way.
The robot
Very
can't
minor
take care of
damage.
it?
Very minor damage to the wheel.
Mm.
At this point, you've been traveling most of the day. Making the wide loop through the bottom of the valley from Drusny up past the meadows of Gorstans into the wood itself. The going is slow, but it's not particularly painful. You have ample opportunity to stretch your legs. The wildlife is interested in you, but keeps a respectful distance.
You're not interested in us in like triple parentheses.
Nothing so far has taken a concentrated interest in you. As you come up upon the river, it's narrow at this point. The sun has begun to dip beneath a massive cloud bank on the horizon, so the shadows are longer, and the gloom begins to set. There is a soft mist that begins to creep and gather and just hang around the ankles and the boughs of the trees. Sorry, the base of the trees.
My intuition says we should see if we can get to the general area before setting up camp. But if you think we should take a break before we ford the river and keep on.
Orlo nods to you, turns to Ulvar, the Tanal native. How deep's that water? The native kind of shrugs, walks over, pulls small but long branch, low hanging off of one of the trees, snaps it down, wades out, dunks it down, and about a good 2/3 of the branch disappears. You see him kind of muttering to himself, kind of inclining his head left and right, shakes it, turns around, walks back, tosses the stick over his shoulder to clatter amongst the pebbles and twisted grasses on the bank of the river. We can make it. It's deep, not too deep. We can get the wagons across. But is this something we want to try in the dark? Because we are losing sunlight very, very quickly. Orlo turns, looks at the little owlin. Well, boss, your call.
We're all just staring at you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, given my expertise is in a different subject, I will fall to your judgment here. I don't have, unless somebody has a way of making artificial light.
Sorry, I forgot to mention, throughout all of this, Sebastian's just like in the wagon, just asleep. Just like rested up against one of the posts. So he has no idea what's going on right now.
I unfortunately did not prep something that could help us here. But if we do decide to set up camp, I can set an alarm. So
Orlo nods. Camp it is. Slaps
It
his
is.
thighs. Hauls himself up. Kind of rubs out the tightness in his lower back.
all right, everybody, dismount and get camp set up for the night. We're in for
Hops
a long
down.
one, I'm sure.
Hops down off the front of the cart there. Tangra, come on, let's get to it. And they begin to, between the two of them, unload off the second cart, which they pull off slightly aside from the main area. It's a nice kind of flat plain that goes up into a bit of a grassy bump before heading down towards the river. It's definitely going to be a bit of a pull and push job to get the carts up and over it, but you can do it for sure. But where you've chosen is quite a nice flat area. It's a fairly secure camp. You've got good visibility on 3 sides. You're protected by the river on one side. Ulvar begins to plot out a perimeter and gets to cutting, cleaning, drying some firewood.
I can help him. I'll be grabbing wood with magic-y hands
Sure.
and.
So Rykard goes off to help gather
Wood, yeah.
gather the wood. Anybody else pitching in for setting up camp?
Yeah, what Noah's gonna do is just glad to fucking be away with him donkey, because his donkey's been fucking nairn in his fucking like ear all the way here. He's just glad to have some peace and quiet.
When you want the trad wife, but you get the tard wife instead.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, just a low bray in the background. Just
Exactly. Like
Asimov is going through and using his strength to help pull off all the heavy shit off the wagons and try and make setting up camp a little quicker for those that need those types of comforts.
100%. That's why I went off to gather wood. I can gather that with a
Yeah.
mage hand. I'm not picking up all that heavy shit.
beat
Aye.
start in the balls. Like.
I've stuck around too long making camp before.
Ulvar just kind of gives you this side eye, like raises one of his crusty salt and pepper eyebrows as you're just gesturing wood up into your arms from the ground.
Oh, I'm not even doing that. I'm picking up pieces of wood and levitating them over to the plow. I'm not touching wood. Fuck that.
Yeah, you just hands in your pockets, just become.
Yes! Yeah. Here you go,
This wood
mate.
is
Got
tainted.
him. Yeah. It's dirty.
All right.
Don't touch dirt.
I do have a question.
Very, very Merlin-esque from the Sword and the Stone. All that around. What's the question?
So, alarm
Mm-hmm.
specifies a size, but it does not specify that casting it again resets it. So, could I do multiple casts of alarm to cover any extra space?
Yeah, you can definitely like extend the line, but because it's a new activation of the spell, if something trips the older spell, it's not going to register on the section that's the new spells on, if that makes sense.
Well, that's even better, because that just means that means we'll have directional radar, essentially.
Directional screeching.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
All right, I will set however many alarms I need to. Each one can cover a 20-foot cube. So I would assume, 2, 3 would cover.
Yeah, I'd say
all
you could
camp?
get about three alarms would cover you on every side that isn't the river.
You know what? I have 4 first-level casts, and we're about to do a long rest, so I'm going to burn all of my first-level spells and just have directional radar set up around the camp.
We're gonna give some
Audible.
Gnolls the long rest.
Audible alarm, which
Don't
is...
forget, you also have a walking, talking sentry robot that doesn't sleep.
Yes, but this is a good way to...
Extend the coverage essentially.
I-
Ice in the back of it, like.
Yeah,
Also, we get jumped. We're all asleep. one person's trying to wake everyone up. Waking one person up's an action or whatever. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Versus
So-
everybody will wake up because a lore.
yeah,
For the alarm, your trigger, is it going to be a psionic trigger that just rings in your head, or is it like an actual
audible.
sound that you're setting?
I'm going to do the audible ping, which is the
Screeching.
audible alarm produces a sound for 10 seconds within a 60-foot radius.
And then what sound do you choose to imbue the incantation with?
Have you ever heard in Screech? That's it.
there's a file on this server somewhere of me screeching at Tycho.
Yeah, that's it.
It's going to be
MP4.
Right, just incoherent bird screech from the owlin for a couple of seconds as you're setting these alarms.
yeah. You're going to hear ungodly screeching, bird screeches.
Just everyone's trying to set up the camp and just breaks the silence. Just the camp comes together quickly. It seems that the steward Tangra really knows his business. He's got all of these little modifications and rope pulleys that he's spent a lot of expertise and time building, and the big leather-sided yurts come up quick. Everything goes together well. He's got a small ring of rocks that are in like almost like a woven net of hemp that hangs at the bottom of each flap on the yurts that essentially give them a foundation and hold the tents in place. Barnow screaming. Stop the fucking video. Jesus. But yeah, the camp comes up quickly. The camp comes up quickly, and just as Ulvar gets a decent stone-based fire up and going with the wood, the cast iron A-frame over the top of it, a grill plate that kind of hangs between the three spoked legs, and the hook, which Tangra pulls a big cast iron hanging cauldron, hangs on there, begins to break out a small wooden urn, almost, with a kind of a sheepskin clinched around the top of it. And as he pulls it open, there is a waft of steam from inside it, and he pours the perpetual soup into the cauldron. The sun dies,
R.I.P.
falls away behind the mountains, and that last crisp outline of the horizon, the impossibly tall reaching mountains appearing like fingers grasping down towards the valley, descend into darkness and shadow. And suddenly the forest around you quietens. And
All
you can see
It's
no...
with his soup, all of it, slurping it.
just slurping his soup.
I'm just muttering like, "Gosh, so annoying."
You can see maybe 15 to 20 feet into the woods before the mist that was gathering around the base of the trees, which now kind of seems to rise and permeate the very air itself, obscures the shadows between the trees. And there is inky black walls on all sides. Almost seems like the darkness is pushing up to the very edge of the halos of light from the torches being set by Ulvar around the edges of the camp. And the soft glow of the central fire. Quite an oppressive feeling now that the sun has set. but with that bated breath, nothing comes from the darkness for you. And soon all the sounds of the night creatures begin to skitter and scurry and chirp and cheep, snuffle, and form their own
generally
investigation of your camp.
Yeah, or basically takes, a ball that he's been eating his soup in, and he seems to be a bit, like, not disquieted, but, like, just a little bit on edge, and he just pours all what's left of his soup in the bowl on the floor and basically says, I don't like this place. I'm just going to take a walk around the perimeter, and just gets up and decides to have a wander off. Like,
As you're walking off, I'm like, what do you mean this place? The woods? The world? I agree.
he's not really a man for over-explanation. Like, he's going to just have a quick walk around camp. Just and just put the alarms and just get a bit of air and,
Yeah, and I take advantage of the fact that you don't ever like talk a bunch, so I just snidely talk at you all the time because you don't talk back.
Yeah, you fill in his dialogue.
Good,
Yeah.
good, Unto is okay with this.
Oh, we're out in the middle of the forest. What are we doing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's damn cold out. It is.
As a heads up, Unto, you can leave the perimeter. You won't set the alarm off. Anybody within camp does not send the alarm off.
Yeah, he probably could. This is another thing. So yeah, that mechanically that's good to know. But also, even with that knowledge, like out of character, in character, he probably wouldn't do it anyway because he doesn't want to go off into the dark and like get eaten by something. He's not an idiot.
Doesn't
Yeah.
really
So-
have
I
a
agree.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Before-
Unto's had experience in these woods before. There are very dangerous creatures that do call this place home, but it is quite rare for people to encounter them.
Before he leaves, am I able to cast Sanctuary on him?
Yeah, if you want to catch him before he heads off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Grabs by the back of the neck, holds up and stares into his eyes.
Yeah, so Sanctuary. Once I ward him, any creature that targets him with a harmful attack or a spell must make a Wisdom save throw. If they fail it, they have to choose a new target or lose that attack or spell.
Just remember that Bane is the GM that made a tentacle monster that tried to rape my character. Just saying.
That's fine. You deserve it.
That's fine.
I would like to
deserve it.
upcast Sanctuary if possible.
You shouldn't have dressed as you did if you didn't want the tentacle monster to have a go at you. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
true. That's true.
Protect his
Hey,
circumference. Protect his circumference.
I pretty much every night, and this is to get this out of the way, and I'll track it, but to let you know so I don't have to say it every time. I'm going to cast Mage Armor before I go to sleep, which uses a spell slot.
Smart man. Smart man.
And then I'm going to also use one sorcery point to extend it, so it now lasts 16 hours instead of 8.
Nice.
So it'll be good for in the morning when I get my spell slot back. And I'm just going to do that every long rest.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
yeah, to quickly go back to like
That's a man that's seen some shit.
Grim's character essentially. So Asimov, I'll basically not Guts. We'll basically just be like, you'll just let him do it and just be like, yeah, thanks, kind of style. With the kind of implication that like it's probably an overreaction, but whatever. Like, the dude's not being an asshole, so we'll take what we get, and then he'll go off and have his wander.
Yeah, as Unto gets up, declares this, kind of dumps the soup, begins to walk off. With the large, imposing automaton that
Clank, clank, clank.
Orlo spent a good 5 minutes staring at when he first met him. Orlo just kind of raises his eyebrows at Unto's back, just looks at the soup on the floor, and he's like, pulls that face like the,
That was good soup. How dare you waste my cooking?
He's got
Unto.
perpetual soup, bro. He can just get on with it.
As you begin to walk the space between the gloom and the glow of the camp. The wind... There is a soft breeze that makes its way through the trees here, you guess that it's a residual from the quite fast winds that pick up in the valley. It's enough to make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. You kind of, pull your cloak a little bit tighter around your neck and continue on your way. Just silently mapping the ground, choke points between the trees, what could be a hindrance, what could help. Your walk leads you down to a cluster of large rocks just up over the small ramp of earth that leads down to the riverbank. 1 foot, armor shod, kind of clanks onto the stones. The water has this beautiful silver silhouette over this churning black motion. And you can see a reflection of the twin moons piercing weakly through the cloud cover. Make a perception check for me.
Yeah, sure.
That's never good.
Be fine.
That's a 13 plus my perception skill, right?
Mhm.
So that's 16.
Sweet. As you're watching the way the moonlight glints and glimmers and seems to bounce and roll across the black water, you catch 2 glimmering coins of light on the opposite bank, nestled among the trees. At this point, probably a good 70 to 80 feet from where you're standing. Low down in the underbrush, for sure. Maybe sitting about 3 feet from the ground in the darkness. And as you turn your head to get a better view, you see those coins flicker and shimmer. And you instantly know that it's fire glow from your camp reflecting off of something's very intent gaze that's watching the riverbank. You see the eyes flicker again, and they lift, and they shimmer once more as they settle into these 2 discs of reflective gold light, and they're staring right at you. You know there's all manner of beasts and creatures in these woods. There's roaming wolf packs, the odd saber-tooth, other more sinister creatures, but they usually keep to the deep glens, the dark glades. Most animals will ignore anyone in the woods, unless they're starving. But this is just watching you. About 40 seconds pass. It's the sound of the river gurgling softly beneath you, and the gentle of your heart in your ears as adrenaline is poised, ready to release. The eyes blink, and they vanish. As you wait a little longer, almost convinced that whatever was there is gone, you make to turn back and continue your journey when the eyes blink in again. And then they lift, continuing to move through the gloom, rising up and up and up until they're about 7 feet off the loamy bank. And then slowly they begin to reduce as whatever they belong to steps silently into the shadows and the dark, and then they're gone. You wait another minute. They don't come back.
In this case, the best thing to do, other than like the trained response, would be to obviously go in and just like trying to cut this thing down in the middle of night or whatever the hell it is. There's, that would be a pretty foolish thing to do. That's not something that he's trained to do in this particular instance. So he would probably back up away from the creature slowly or whatever the hell it is, until he's at least a bit of enough a distance that he can like start to go back towards camp essentially, but not turn his back like on it for like at least a couple of steps.
Yeah.
Because obviously he also knows that if it is some kind of like wild animal, especially if it's something that is like because he's not sure what it is, he knows that if he just turns his back on it, it could actually encourage it to like strike out.
Yeah.
So he's just aware of that, the kind of like the psychology of these particular things. So he's going to then try and get back to camp essentially.
A few heart-pounding, but quietly controlled moments passed. And as you keep looking back and plotting your trajectory of where your feet are planted, while keeping your attentions divided on getting back to camp and keeping an eye on the opposite riverbank, the eyes don't materialize again. And by the time you reach back to camp itself, pretty convinced that whatever was watching you was just doing that. There doesn't seem to be any sign that it's following.
As Unto gets back to the camp, then he's basically the first thing he's going to say is not even going to even explain. He's just going to simply state, "I think we need to think about sentries and even double in sentries." That's the first thing he says when he gets back to camp. We just walks over to how everyone's sitting essentially and just like blurts it out essentially.
Orlo kind of stops with a mouthful of
I'm already asleep.
kind of chewing on his spoon a little, and he looks over at Talura.
I believe it's pretty standard to have at least a sentry up. We'll take shifts. If somebody wants to volunteer for double duty.
Out of character here, I would like to just quickly ask: Did we say that me and Enter's character had prior together? I think we did, if I remember rightly.
You
We
worked
are
together.
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Unto is now going to refer to him as Birdman, because that's just the, that's what he
Birdman.
Yeah.
I used the kind of soft anonymity of the irregular mercenary company as an open door for you guys to kind of know each other as much or as little as you want prior to this.
That's exactly it. So I wanted to at least just quickly like assess that so that we would be on some familiar, level. Not like major like friends or anything, but at least we know each other, we know each other's capabilities.
Yeah.
So Unto was basically going to say something along the lines of, Birdman is right. I've just been down to the river having a bit of a stroll around, and there's something down there. I don't know what it is, but it's actively like sizing up our camp.
I can't say I'm surprised. That's why I set up alarms, but it never hurts to have sentries.
Then Unto just says, "And it ain't no wolf," and then just sits back down and then decides that he wants some more soup.
Something out there, and it ain't no man.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the reference.
Bleed real good.
I'm scared.
Orlo lets out a held breath and goes, "All right then, lads, on that note, I'm going to bed." Pulls himself up into the carriage.
In the forest. All right, no night.
He's like, you got it. This is not my job. This is what you're being paid for. Kind of hauls himself up into the cab of the carriage and begins to settle himself down on the footplate, bundling himself with furs and a small leather flap that he kind of pulls over to create this little bivouac in the footwell of his own carriage.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, seeing this, Unto lets out a small chuckle. That seems to have amused him.
So who is going to take the watch, either first, second, or watch through the night?
Well, I mean,
I will.
As I've been asleep already for a few hours or whatnot on the journey, I'll take first watch.
Okay.
I think
I'll
go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a given that I'll be technically keeping watch throughout the whole night. So
You're like the second person on watch permanently.
I'm not actually asleep, but I'm definitely trying to appear asleep, hoping that no one thinks about me needing to take a watch and just forgets about it, and I can sleep all night.
So I can see that. Is it Ricard? Is that his name?
Yeah.
I can see Ricard is going to be the literal personification of weaponized incompetence in this caravan.
Yeah.
All right, sweet.
Take the second. He's just, he's already weeded out by his first experience. He's pretty much wanted a bit of a rest before he, guts out there again. That was enough for the recent hour.
All right.
Are we doing
The first-
4 watch or 2 watch nights?
What I was thinking, and this is out of character, but between we do a watch where it's like everyone who isn't like Asimov does a watch, and then Asimov is obviously the always on watch, so there's 2 of us at all times essentially. So
Yeah,
I get that, but I've seen some DMs break it like
oh right, I see.
the night up into more than 2 watches. Like they'll do 2-hour watches or 4-hour watches.
That's entirely on you guys. I'm leaving control of things like that up to you, depending on how much of a threat you might think you're under.
Well, Birdman has dark vision, but Birdman also only has a +1 to perception, so.
And dark vision isn't always the blessing that people think it is as well. You gotta remember that.
Oh yeah.
Can't discern color. Some shapes are a bit iffy. It's
basically
better than
IR
being
vision.
fucking blind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can at least see. I may not know exactly what I'm looking at. It may look like a Van Gogh painting, but I can at least see.
Because
as tall and it has a massive fucking knob, then you know that there's a problem. Like...
Asimov will need at least 4 hours in that time to, run his subroutines and kind of do a little bit of soul searching inside his big stone and metal body. But for the most part, he's just awake.
I think it's safe to say that I don't move during this because it's I need to spend at least 6 hours in an inactive, motionless state rather than sleeping. But in this state, I appear inert, but I'm not actually unconscious. I can see and hear as normal. So
it's just running diagnostics.
Pick a direction that you want me to face and just stand me there, and I'll just look like a gargoyle or a statue or something.
Face the river.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be.
Yeah. How compelling! Now face the river.
Yeah.
How compelling! Now face the river.
How compelling! Now face the river.
On your knees, sound of a gun. But yeah. So first watch goes up. It's with the revelation that there is something out there watching you. It's definitely a puckering experience. Waiting through the first watch. It's that intake of breath before a hammer blow. But the blow never comes. And so a lot of energy and adrenaline is wasted over the course of the night. Until a comfortable, complacent morning begins to kiss the tops of the trees and filter down to meet the very soft gurgling of the river.
I'll wake up early since I slept all night. Yawn and stretch.
Yep, you pop your way out of the yawn and stretching. You see Tangra, the Akathanian dude, is already beginning to break camp. Just get the more non-essential items down out of the way. He's pulling down the little kind of windbreakers that he erects between some of the trees outlying the camp that just help block the general silhouette of everybody. He's rolling these lengths of treated skins back into their original shapes, and then buckling them shut, hauling them into the back of the cart. Kind of sees you, gives a nod.
So this is the end of a long rest, correct?
Correct.
So does that mean that I can technically refresh Blessing of the Forge on myself?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you get everything back.
Okay, so I need
Refreshing my spells.
Yep, this is end of a long rest. If you did spend any spells or anything like that, feel free to reimburse yourself.
All right.
I'm refreshing my will to live. Like, I'm just seeing the thing in the night. Like,
Okay.
That never comes back. You can't.
Yeah.
That's permanent damage. It's like
good
some
Steam
3-point.
players.
Orlo
Mine's like
and
70 points.
Orlo and Ulvar are having a quiet conversation over by the camp supplies cart, and then you see Orlo
I'm going
clap.
to eavesdrop.
Yeah, they're not necessarily being quiet. They're just not
Okay.
using raised
Oh, it
voices.
was, yeah.
Orlo claps Ulvar on the shoulder and goes, "Go on then, set about it." Ulvar reaches in and he pulls out a single bearded axe. And he pulls out a second one. From the length of the shaft, bladed on one side. Very utilitarian. These are tools, not weapons. And he begins to march through the camp and towards the trees that are hugging the slope down towards the riverbank. He gestures with one of the axes and dumps it at the foot of a tree. Pulls his hood back, rolls his sleeves up, pulls his leather gloves nice and tight, and then begins to go to work on the base of one of the smaller, thinner trees. Orlo gestures towards the river. We're going to put some lines down in the water, help the carts get across.
Makes sense.
Do you want me to walk across the river as like a scouting party? Since I don't need to breathe or anything, I can just wade through the river and cross it.
If the robot decides to do that, I will go with him and abuse my fly speed.
I'll just help with the construction of and getting the carts across. I mean,
Yeah.
I also want to know out of character, like, why this dude developed a Yorkshire accent half the way through that. But like,
Because I've got what's known as the DM's drifting tongue.
I see. Like,
He's secretly a bard.
Secretly, yeah. But yeah, can I get a survival check from you, Unto? And then you two, you begin to head off into and over the river. It comes up to about just over mid-thigh. So it's not particularly deep, but it could definitely pose a problem for the carts. It's just deep enough. Hence why they're cutting some runners, these logs, lay them down, and then it'll be up to you to guide the carts across. When you reach, do you head over to the opposite bank?
Yeah, Asimov is going to take his time making sure to kind of watch his steps and see if there's any pitfalls or anything else that'll go through and cause trouble for the wagon party. And then once he gets, then he'll get to the other side after some time.
About 2/3 of the way across, your right foot does slip slightly. Doesn't quite give out underneath you, but definitely falls down an extra kind of footfall. And it does look like something's been dislodged there. Maybe like an old stone or a piece of, petrified wood was encased in the clay and mud of the bottom of the riverbank there, but it's been moved. And so there is a bit of a dip.
Okay.
Aside from that, you make it to the other side of the bank, and there's nothing up there. It's nice and clear. And you can see the wider spaces between the trees. Shouldn't have too much trouble navigating the carts through here.
Yeah, or rolled a 14, by the way, for that.
Sweet. Between you and Ulvar, you process down this tree very, very efficiently. And I'd say within about 2 hours of work with the camp, you've got the runners lined across the river, and the carts are ready to go.
Yes, I'm back on donkey duty, boys.
A cursory sweep of the opposite bank of the river. There's no sign of whatever was watching you.
Not unsurprising. But it never hurts to check.
With a combined and concentrated effort, with those helping to their best capacity and those helping to their minimally needed to be inclusive capacity, you
looking around. Hey, talking about?
It couldn't possibly be me. I'm an integral member of this community. I do things. The camp
Ordering
gets
people around is a busy and exhausting job, okay?
Yeah.
I sing
Tellura
songs
is just
and steal
permanent
state
anxiety
secrets.
and
I don't.
stress.
I don't do physical labor.
It's all mental labor.
Tom's character get along.
The camp is tended to, packed up, put away, and one by one, the carts go over. The second heavier cart, the camp supplies cart, would have taken a tumble if it hadn't been for Asimov finding that small dip and guiding the efforts around it.
I just imagine the robot standing there on the other edge of the bank with like 2 hand axes, one in each hand, with his maul slung over his back, using them like guide, like the way that an aircraft carrier goes through, just like guides him in, just waving him in.
Yeah, just cast light on both of them, just leading them in.
Oh, I just imagined you sitting like where the spot is in the river, just staying, going, avoid here.
Not saying anything, just staring at the cart, just like, I'm not moving, so you have to go around me. Hands down at your side, just...
Either one. They're both great.
Yeah, the caravan maneuvers across the river, carefully, controlled, successfully.
Yay, we're on the other.
Everybody hitches up on the other side, gets everything going, rushes the horses down, rings out, leggings, cloaks, you name it. You take about another hour to make the caravan travel ready. Make sure everything's lashed down, do final checks, make sure nothing's forgotten, make sure everybody's prepared, and then you begin to head off again.
That's in character.
Yeah, you just go.
I just walked in circles in cursive, writing "hurry" on the ground for some unseen entity in space to notice.
As you head up and away from the river,
Thing eastward, we're
Ulvar.
going to be going southeast now.
Yeah, Ulvar begins to track southeast in a wide curve. The ground here begins to be a little bit more unpredictable. There are large hillocks that begin to rise out of the loam, pushing trees up way over the heads of their counterparts. There are wide gaps where these hills are. You begin to notice more structures among the trees. Around these hillocks are boulders that have obviously at some point been rolled there, pushed there, stacked. Carvings clawed into the stonework and old slabs of petrified wood.
Now, is this obviously a Gnoll camp, or should I be rolling perhaps history to see if I can recognize if this is perhaps something? Obviously it's not turbo elves, but like
Go ahead and roll the
older.
history check.
All right, it's gonna be.
This is why Unto's thinking he's glad he can't read. He doesn't want to know what this is about, to be honest.
I mean, I probably can't read either. I just shoot lightning bolts.
I got a 9.
Okay. Nothing
Alrighty.
about them. Yeah, nothing about them screams elvish, whether it's contemporary, archaic, or
Yeah, I didn't figure it was elves, but I just wanted to
or any kind of
sure.
like offshoot or anything like that.
Yeah.
They, from a cursory glance, you don't understand the runic, like the runiform. It's not a language that's familiar to you, if it's even a language at all. But it's old. It's very, very old. These carvings are not recent. The stones are weather shaped. There's lichen growing all over them, like they're pitted. There's vines curving and gripping up the sides of these slabs of wood and these standing stones that are all haphazard just around this area. They've been here a long time, hundreds, if not thousands of years.
They don't look like ancient elven, do they?
No.
Okay.
No. Asimov recognizes nothing about them.
Okay.
Once he said like boulders and shit, it's like no, these aren't like the Roman Empire elves that are like superior to everybody.
As the caravan continues on, Ulvar comes back. Puts his fingers to his lips, gestures for Orlo to stop the caravan. And he strides purposefully up and quietly. He tells Orlo that you need to wait. I'm not sure about the path ahead. I'll be back, but it may take some time.
F.
No, he won't.
There's signs of passing. Don't know what it is. That's what I have to figure out. And then he turns and he pads back off into the gloom. Five minutes pass. It's pushing on 10 minutes. 15 pass. The horses are antsy. The mule begins to kick.
He's not coming back, is he? As I just motioned to all the others.
Starts to push towards the 20th minute.
Unto says, probably not.
Orlo turns to look at Telora.
He said he didn't know how long it would be. We'll give him. Do we have any way of marking the spot to let him know we moved on if we do move forward? Do we want to leave the carts here and send somebody out to see if we can't track the tracker?
I mean, could I technically
so to speak.
use Sacred Flame to go through and scorch the earth where we are? as a mark.
You
Wait,
could do.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you could definitely use it to like burn a patch of the ground or mark a tree with it. Leave some kind of sign.
Well, my suggestion would be before we leave, we do we have anybody else that's good at frontiersmen or tracking or any of those frontier folk proclivities?
I have good perception and survival.
I have decent survival as well.
What's decent survival?
+4.
Oh, I have 4.
I have 3, so yeah.
I've
I think we're all
got
pretty good at that.
perception and insight, but no survival.
I can lie really good. And I can convince people really good. That's what I can do.
So can I.
I can tell when people are lying really good.
Oh, so I'm just
Very
lying
hard.
100%.
Then they stop lying.
I can smile on them and potentially pick their pockets at the same time.
So no, I
Anyway.
mean, yes, we're all okay at it.
Okay.
So
Does
unfortunately,
anybody
obviously,
choose?
I would
Does anybody
suggest
choose to
sending
head
a
off and
pair.
follow?
What we're gonna do, Birdman?
Asimov will.
I suggest we send off a pair if within 30 more minutes you don't find them on the hour, we mark the ground and set forward. Hoot hoot.
As the time begins to stretch and creep, it becomes darkly obvious that Ulvar is not coming back.
Yeah, so I'll
There's-
look towards.
No sound.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's no sound, there's no sign of disturbance.
So
Oh.
I'll nod at Owlman to basically just say like, yeah, thank you for like for your input, kind of stuff. And I'll just look at Asimov and then be like, anyone else, like because it's clearly that this Asimov wants to go off in the brush to find the guy.
Okay, time for a jolly in the woods. Let's go, gentlemen.
All right, you begin to set off. It's not too difficult to track where he's been moving. You follow this twisting, winding path that he's cutting through the trees until this long, narrow track, carved not by the passage of feet, like in some of the imperial towns, not laid by soldiers on their way to conquest, like most of the highways across the empire. It's a track worn over time by the movement of herds. There are animal signs everywhere. And about 30 feet up ahead is Ulvar, laid on his side, one leg, twisted and caught in the underbrush. He lifts his head and he looks at you. Gestures for quiet. And then gestures you come closer. He points to his eyes and he points to the ground.
I think I know what this is, but I'm not with the scouting party.
Who went with the scouting party?
It's just Asimov and Unto.
Okay.
And
I went with them too.
Yeah.
And Sebastian.
Okay, and Sebastian. My
Oh,
bad.
I stayed. I didn't go. Fuck that.
So with
So
that,
Do you approach?
repeat what you said though? Because I
Yep.
only got half of it. What do we see or not see or?
So you see, you've got this wide kind of track that's been carved by the passage of animals over time, The wood itself is almost like bent around it, forming a tunnel above it. Very thick underbrush, loam on either side. About 30 feet from where you've broken onto this track, you see Ulvar laid on his side. One foot is kind of twisted underneath him, down in the underbrush, and he catches eyesight with you, gestures for you to be quiet, to come towards him, and to keep your eyes on the ground. Whoever begins to move forward, I need a survival check.
Alright, I'll do it. Let me roll. That'd be a d20, correct? Yeah.
D20 plus survival.
Basically, unless it's damage, you're rolling a d20.
That is a 21.
Sweet. Natural or modified?
Modified. 17 plus 4.
Okay. Sweet. As you see Ulvar's gestures and you extrapolate them, you begin to plot the most logical course towards him with all the information that he's silently given you. You begin to notice fresh tracks, different from the animal tracks that carve this main path. It weaves and moves either side of the path. They're wide, flat paw prints. Something large, not necessarily heavy, but wide, splayed feet. Definitely has reach to its steps. It can stride, and it looks, from what you can gather out, to be striding and moving and covering ground 2 to 3 times the pace of a man. The average man could comfortably move. You also notice the glint of rusted iron in a circular motion, like a circular pattern, barely concealed, but concealed enough that if you're not paying attention to where your foot is stepping, it'll be a very unfortunate surprise.
I bet you there's
You lean down, just kind of moving the brush reveals bear trap. And looking up closer as you get to Ulvar, you get the sense that he's probably caught in one.
God damn it, Ulvar.
So,
Ulvar One Job was his full name after all.
Ulvar one job.
Ulvar one job, perfect.
Do my companions go through and see the trap/traps, or is it just me since I need to roll?
Do you point them out to them?
Yes.
Okay. So with your roll, you're able to navigate from where you are to Ulvar without issue, without setting off any trap. You don't know how many there are. You catch glimpses of 2 more in an erratic pattern. Nothing. It doesn't seem like they've been placed in any pattern that kind of makes sense.
That being said, in my inventory, I have a 10-foot pole for any place a 10-foot pole. So
most adventurers carry around on folding poles, things like that.
So for any place that I don't have direct line of sight and I'm not sure on my way over to him, could I use the pole almost like a blind person uses a cane to go through and just kind of sniff out any possible traps?
Yeah, absolutely. As you're going, the 3 of you are bearing down on Ulvar quite quickly, quite confidently, with Asimov smacking and tapping the loam in front of you. As you get up to Ulvar, and he kind of lifts his head, and you can see he's already frustrated with himself, and he kind of gives you that "yeah, I fucking know" look. You bring the pole down, and there is this almighty slap as jaws snap up through the loam, close to where the group is kind of standing. He leans down and shows you where it is clamped shut on his leg.
Well, that shouldn't be a problem. I just grab that fucker and throw it wide open.
Yeah, sweet. Grab it. Not going to make you roll a strength check for it, just because that's ridiculous. You prise it open. The resistance from it isn't necessarily because the tension springs in it are any good. It's purely you're just fighting and churning old rust away from itself, and it's just shearing the actual iron.
There hope he had his tetanus shot.
Old crusty blood stains, scraps of old skin and fur attached to them, everything.
Shot.
You pull it off. His leg isn't too damaged.
Pull off his leg.
You pull it off of his leg. It's not too damaged. It pierced in 2 places, but didn't dig very deep. He's able to weight bear on it.
So he's not broken anything.
Not broken anything. Miraculously, he's, you see him make a very small sign to the Dawn Father. Small religious hand gesture to Palor, god of light and protection.
Maybe should stop doing that and instead start fucking looking where he walks. Or says something similar to that effect.
Damn. Cold motherfucker.
He lets out a short laugh and says, fair, but I was looking at that. And he points up the way. And what had kept his attention from necessarily where his feet were falling is a tree trunk, chopped and dropped right across the path.
I will be
That
right
can't
back.
be a coincidence.
No, so Untor lets out a small grunt and basically just says ambush ?
Well,
Ulvar shrugs.
Hold on, one of our party members is AFK.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm guessing just from what Untor could say, obviously if there's a tree that's been intentionally placed across a path, then usually it'd be to stop a car, and then usually from his mercenary experience, it's usually when the bandits jump out and try to rob you blind. Whether he's right or not is,
Yeah.
completely beside the point, but...
Yeah, Ulvar shrugs. He said, I haven't seen any sign of any of them.
I have no idea how long the tree's been like this.
No. Looks like fresh fall, but we would have heard it.
Well, by the look of the traps and how shitty they are, they're not exactly fresh traps.
Yeah, as you kind of study the area a little bit more, these traps have been laid here for quite some time, and with your survival roll, Asimov, you noticed that the large splayed footprints that would apart from the kind of common tracks here knew where these traps were. You can see telltale rings of completely untouched loam. And sure enough, if you probe them with your stick, you begin to snap shut these traps. If you choose to clear them, it'll take some time. But this is the way forward.
Yeah, it's probably worth... this is out of character, but obviously I think this is probably worth clearing it, because otherwise, we're being a bit of shit. But I would probably say that Untor would probably want to check out, this is in character, he'd probably want to check out what the fuck this tree's doing first, rather than decide to, just fuck around with all of these because it's absolutely fine fucking around with all of these until you get an arrow in your back. Right?
Side note as well was like, right, oh, well, yeah, your leg looks a bit bummed up. Yeah, let's sort that out. So, and then I'll cast Cure Wounds at level 1 on him to like fix up any nasty wounds or shit on his leg.
Yeah, as you kind of crouch down and you do your wax on, wax off, and you heal his leg. He grunts and kind of lets out a low grimace of kind of a growling grimace of pain as you watch the pushed in punctured sections of his leg splay back out and then re-knit and sew themselves shut until there's just a thin, gabberous line.
Oh, I don't think I'll ever get used to seeing that.
He claps you on the shoulder. Thank you.
You're welcome, buddy.
Kind of hauls himself up, tests his weight on his leg again, unlimbers his bow, draws one of the short hunting arrows that he keeps on the leather quill hanging from his belt with a knee strap on the left-hand side, and kind of just holds the arrow, holds the bow. So, should we check out this log?
After you, says oh.
That's the idea.
He nods, now acutely aware of the ground, and kind of you see him start moving forward at a very controlled pace, looking for the areas of circle where nothing seems to be disturbed that Asimov was beginning to kind of point out. You move up over the course of 10 quiet, dragging minutes till you reach the trunk. Nothing seems to be disturbed in the immediate vicinity except for this fallen trunk. You look over, follow the track of its body, and there is a stump. Old, gnarled, dark wood with fresh, slightly wet beige wood. All gnarled and churned and split on itself. Where
just looking at the wood at the top of the stump, just to get the mental image, is it like fresh wood, or is it like already been like exposed to the elements for quite a while, kind of style?
It's probably about a day or two. Still quite fresh, but the top elements of it are drying.
And does it look like it has been hewn? Like,
oh yeah, whoever felled this tree definitely used tools, but they weren't very good at it.
Right, okay.
You can tell they were just hacking willy-nilly at this thing. There was no coordination. It was not a clean cut. And it probably took way longer than it should have.
Right, okay.
Ulvar looks around. We need to clear it for the carts. Should we move it now, or should we have Orlo bring the caravan up?
Unor says, I think we should bring the caravan up, and then he turns to Winslow and says, what do you think?
It's quite the obstruction. It's going to take time to clear it. 4 of us may be able to do it, but the tree's not going anywhere for now. Either way, we head back to the caravan, let the others know, come back, clear the tree, or we clear the tree now. Doesn't make much of a difference. But I say we head back to the caravan and let them know that our friends here are safe, and that we've got something to deal with, and to be on the lookout for any potential, well, I don't know, anyone or anything.
No, just basically says yeah. Like keep it
around-
really point to the point. Like
It's around this point that I'm sitting back in the cart thinking, like, how long it's going to take me to turn the cart around and get it back to town solo.
that's exactly the point. Yeah, like
That mental spreadsheet is not looking good.
It's like, oh, fuck. I don't know. Maybe I should just.
All of our nods in agreement. So, do you want me to head back to the caravan and tell them to come up? You work on clearing the road? Or should we all go back?
Or just say straight out we all go back. Something smells bad about this.
Yeah.
Safety
I
in
agree.
numbers.
The world feels off around here. He takes one long, last, sweeping look around the log and sides of the tracks, and then turns and begins to head back. You all make it back to the caravan. But Orlo looks physically relieved. You see his shoulders sloop and he kind of drops his balding head back against his shoulders and lets out like a thank the makers that you're alive. As you rejoin the caravan and relay your findings.
Well, it's a good thing everybody made it back. Glad we sent the search party out. Let's stick together as a group from here on and get to it. Daylight is burning.
There's a bird call off in the distance. Sharp, shrieking, cawing of crows take flight. And you see them curve up and off, away over the tree line.
My people call me. I must go.
And that old bird man takes off into the air. And I'm left alone. Fuck.
The carrot.
Oh fuck! Yeah, I forgot you could fly.
Asimov,
Caravan.
Asimov turns to looks at Tellura and asks, "Do you know what they were saying?"
No, unfortunately, I don't.
He just kind of gives you that look, like, you racist fuck.
Notice the person that's being racist at literally does not care.
Nope.
No, basically just cracks the good old "oh look, the robots made a joke" kind of like statement. Like,
I believe
He
they said
does
something
have
along the lines of,
feelings.
Caw!
The caravan gathers itself and begins to push on. A little bit of sweat and can-do attitude gets you up and over the small ridge that leads down to this animal track that's cut through the woodlands that curves off in the distance.
Oh, it's also in a valley. Oh boy.
Yeah, little open glade, and you can see the rise of hillocks in the distance. Quite a thick concentration of them that really distorts the horizon in front of you.
This is most definitely an ambush point.
And the caravan rumbles up towards the downed tree. The scene is much the same as you left it.
The ridge. I assume that's kind of we're kind of here.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you have a choice: survival or investigation.
On the tree?
Survival to clear it quickly, or investigation to clear it discreetly.
Can I shoot it with the lightning bolt while the owl shoots it with the fireball?
If that's what you guys want to do.
I was going to suggest a way that saves us. So I have a neat little cantrip called Control Flames.
Mm.
Control Flames makes a non-magical flame up to 5 cubic feet instantly expand or extinguish. Now, if I expand it, it burns the egg. The quote is, you instantaneously expand the flame 5 feet in one direction, provided that the wood or other fuel is present in the new location.
Okay.
You can
So
cast the spell multiple times and have up to 3 of its non-instantaneous effects up at any time, and as such, you can dismiss it as an action.
Yeah, so I mean, you can definitely posit this to the group. I mean, it'll take time, but you can quite quietly get rid of this tree trunk without anybody having to exert themselves or pull themselves from, looking out for a potential ambush.
So you're just going to burn it?
Would this be quicker than just casting sword on it though? Like
Casting sword. Well, you might have to cast sword a few times, but
Pending.
But it's probably like
But beyond that,
more efficient than my idea.
the joy is natural fires happen.
Fair.
Clean cuts do not happen naturally.
Was gonna say there's no way for me to just walk up with my maul and smash it into pieces and have ants go through and burn the remains, right?
I mean, you know what else happens naturally? Lightning bolts.
And that's all I'm gonna say is that you're in a party full of impulsive
My way.
people that make decisions.
I don't know. My way may or may not work, but one thing's for
You're gonna
definite:
sing it out of the way?
Fuck ton of noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna serenade it off the path.
No.
Really want to cast lightning bolt on this tree, I will not stop you.
I kind of do, but no. I go ahead.
I just figure this saves people energy, and should, since I can basically double a fire to
Yeah, but logs burn really slow.
Yeah, it would take time.
Well, I mean, I was gonna cast Thunderwave on it, but that would kind of like make everything in a like probably a 20-mile area go, "We are here!"
Imagine some trader just comes down the other route, like trying to also get through this quick purchase by a more dangerous route, and he just sees like these few people just fucking lightning bolting the shit out of him.
Yeah, and then he gets final destination by the Thunderwave's tree log when he smashes through his fucking cabin.
So, what I'm looking around. I mean, I guess this would be part of survival, but can we go around it? I mean, is that an option? Or no?
Make a survival check, yeah.
Why don't we just go around it then? Oh wait, all the. Is it all the?
You got no idea how many of these traps are in there.
Yeah.
And it would take a survival check to kind of map out the route around the track to see if you could get the caravan around it.
That's the okay. Yep.
Caravan's the problem, not us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you get the sense that this tree was particularly chosen to be as annoying as possible because it's right in the narrowest part of the track.
How heavy is the tree, and how much can the robot lift?
I can lift I want to say it's like 400 or 500 pounds.
Nobody's checked to see how heavy the tree is.
Check and see. I would like the robot to. Hey, sorry, Asimov. I am terrible with names. I say in character. Check out Trev. Can you just move that? Can you move that? I bet you can't move that.
Yeah, I'll just thud on over and try to just pick it up and pull it out of the way, like just kind of like shift it off the road, so to say.
Yeah, you push it. It responds to your force, begins to roll slightly, and you're pretty confident that you could push it out of the way.
All right, yeah. What do you want me to do? Strength check?
Yep.
All right, that's +3, so we'll do 15.
Yeah, it takes you a minute or two to kind of find the best footing and trajectory of where you want this thing to go. But once you prepare yourself, you watch Asimov reach down, dig his, like metal tipped fingers into the wood. They crunch in, and then you almost hear the humming of whatever internals are inside him. Kind of puff and pull as he lifts this tree trunk and just casts it aside. It's not a quick motion, but it's very controlled. It's just, you see the power, the fear, the raw physical strength in this war form, this living statue of steel and stone. And he casts this trunk off, and it collides down off the track. Perfect, absolutely perfect.
I kind of dust my hands together
down.
and I go, "That's magic," and then I climb back in the cart.
I'll give a bit of a whistle. Like,
the trunk slams down. The echo of the crash rings through the trees, and you sense and hear multiple small animals go scurrying in all directions to get away from it. But the way is clear. But the way is clear.
How fucked is the tree?
Tree's pretty fucked.
Okay.
like Sark's mom on a Friday night. Like.
It's got mega logged, yeah.
I just want to make sure, because I'm not saying that it could be reset. If it's a state where it could be reset, I'm just saying 2 or 3 Gnolls could probably do the same job and make trouble on the way out. So, but if it's fucked, then never mind.
I look around at all the other thousands of trees in the woods.
Oh, we'll burn this motherfucker to the ground.
I mean,
don't question me. I'm
all about that.
Jim is like, please no, I like these woods. Like,
Ulvar does like a quick sweep around the back of the caravan. Signals all clear.
And on we go.
You all mount up, and you begin to head deeper up this slow rise until you crest between the 2 hillocks. In the distance, you see the rise of what looks to be a failed mountain. You see the roots of some vast range, and that's it. No body, just hills, broken boulders, and jutting fingers of stone.
They're trying their best, okay?
The bones of what looks like where a mountain once stood. The trees smother it. They grasp at it. It looks like they're pulling it down into the earth. And you head further down this track, the rise giving way to a flat, to a slope. And you begin to head down into this secret valley, smattering of trees, carving little paths like capillaries spread out in all directions. You come down to where the path splits in 2 places. Felled trees on either side. Natural fall. There are strands of lichen, small warrens built in the mess of roots, curling their dead and dehydrated fingers towards the sun. And ahead of you, at a crouch, about 100 feet up the road, is a gnoll. staring. His knees up either side of his head as he's in a primordial squat. His long-fingered, black-nailed digits curled lazily, loosely around a spear.
I'm just laughing
Wicked
so
stone
because
tipped.
literally York just typed in lightning bolt before it even finished starting the description of it.
Up ahead in the path, lightning bolt.
You see thick, brown, and oil-slick black fur that forms its wide, thick, humped neck and shoulders.
Oh no, it's a New Jersey salesman.
It begins to stand.
It's Snooky.
It lifts its spear,
Fuzzy cheeky breaky.
digs the end of the stave into the ground and hauls itself up. You see scraps of chainmail and plates of armor, far too small for this creature, lashed and adjoined to a vest of fur and pelts and leather. It stands, skulls hang down from matted, dreaded fur on either side of its face. Small animal skulls. You see a human jawbone, feathers. And
How far away would you say that he is from the party?
about 100 feet up the road.
Okay.
Let me check my spell distance. Oh, 100 foot long. It's the range of my lightning bolt.
It stands to roughly 7 feet in height. Wide-shouldered, long-limbed, gangly. Everything about it seems wrong proportionally. It turns its wide ears left and right, flicks its
Edward.
thick, roomy eyes in your direction. You can, even from this distance, you can see the sickly red and orange pallor of the gaze that it has. It wrinkles its nose ridge, spreads its mouth, hanging its jaw down, revealing blackened and yellow, crumbling fangs. It holds out the other hand and gestures that you come.
Otno's already going, and he says, "I'm already sick of the trees. Never mind this thing." Like,
Yep. So Unto begins to
scroll,
advance towards it.
Yeah, sprinting towards it. I've had enough of the fucking trees. Is basically what he says. Like
All right. Well, be on your guard. I mean, obviously, it's already aware of our presence and it isn't attacking us. So maybe we can get around without having to bother ourselves with this any more than we need to. But be on your toes. It is a gnoll, after all.
As you begin to advance, Unto begins to just distance away from the party. It clacks its teeth 3 times. The echo ringing. And 3 other figures coalesce and emerge at various points down the length of the caravan. But you can also hear more.
Am I able to tell how many in
As
total from the sounds that we're hearing?
either way,
not
it's
just
Otno in time. Like,
not just immediately.
Oh, that's
You
oh fuck. My bad.
you hear the sound of bodies pushing through trees, through the brush. Sounds like it's coming from all directions. You can hear slavering snarls of bestial voices, hollering, whooping laughter, nervousness. And that's where we're going to end it.
yeah, because the combat will take a while. Like,
Alrighty, and with that, I will end the recording.
Sweet.